Hello, Merle, and welcome to Speaking of Everything on YouTube, Facebook, and on Hot 99.9 FM radio. With me, I have a young man. He's been here many times before, and he's doing pretty good now. The one and only Mr. Ralph Cantave. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, World. Thank you so much for having me on your program. This has been I think probably the fourth interview that I've done, and the last one being I think as far back as 2016.
Wow!
So I don't have to go back to watch the growth, you know.
Yeah. So you remember the first show?
Yes,
yeah.
I remember the first one being super nervous, wondering, man, how did I end up on this famous show? The feeling I had, you know, being on your first show was like that of when I went to Lloyd's. The first time I went on the late Lloyd Richardson's show. I always tell that story. I went with Mr. Kenneth Cook, who published his book, 50 Movers and Shakers, a book about 50, a profile of 50, let's say a top or prolific politicians on St. Martin.
Right. And
he went with me to promote the book and stuff. And I remember walking into PJ82, and it's like that moment where you feel, I felt like this is what I want to do. And it's interesting because, you know, one of the things that drive me as a person is being able to give back to younger people in general, because I always give thanks to having such a teacher who saw the talents that I had, you know, and helped harness it where, you know, I became a writer. I published a book just like him, but then that experience opened up my passion, my love for communication, for media, and that's what I ended up studying and even starting my career on. So truly grateful.
And you know, Mr. Kenneth Cook had a very interesting beginning.
Yeah.
You know, he couldn't afford to pay for his education.
Yeah.
And he was asking everyone to give him $1. Don't you remember that time? That was a long time ago. This guy was incredible.
Yeah, passionate.
Yeah, really passionate about what he wanted to do in life, and he succeeded.
Yeah,
becoming a teacher. I haven't seen him in a while, but I hope everything is going good with him.
Yeah, he had a column which he had for years too with the Daily Herald.
I don't see it anymore.
But a wealth of knowledge and truly passionate about education. So I'm glad that I was part of the cohort of students who were molded by him, you could say, and other opportunities to even that of Teen Times. Teen Times too was instrumental to my development as a journalist, as a writer in general, and even confidence in communication.
So you left St. Martin, went to study in the States after that?
Yes, I left St. Martin in 2018, and that was January 2018. After wondering if I'll be able to continue my studies, because it was right after Irma. At the time I was at USM, involved in different things. There was even a radio show, and myself and some other students were part of at USM. But when Irma hit, there were financial challenges on my end. But I give God thanks for actually my childhood pastor, who played a role in helping me getting the support needed to travel. So the thing about it too, what made it scary at that time was that because of, I don't know if you remember that whole saga where USM was basically threatening or stating that it was going to close because of funding issues and all of that. And I was like, bro, my life, like education means a lot to me. Yeah. You know, my parents, of course, instilled that in me, but especially because my parents
are still in Ireland?
Yeah, they're still on the island, But they instilled that drive, passion for education because, well, for one, none of my parents finished primary school, for example. But the thing I appreciate deeply is that I saw my parents develop themselves, particularly through reading. My mom especially is one who, you know, when you hear her speak, you will never think she's a Haitian.
Really? Yeah.
But I saw my mom from reading signs, reading cans, reading newspaper, reading every day. My father, you know, spending time with me as a little boy, reading. I remember.
Your father also from Haiti?
Yeah, both my parents are from Haiti. Yeah, you know, so. I felt in short, I felt a little worried, like, man, like I can't miss out on not being able to go to school. But thank God, you know, I was able to transfer. Went to FAMU, Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, which is another, let's say, construct that I think is a great benefit to St. Martin students, because St. Martin in Tallahassee, where the school is located, which is, it was only when I arrived there I found out that it's the capital of Florida. I always thought Miami was the capital of Florida.
Everybody thinks.
Until you reach Miami, wonder if you're in a Latin country. But the sister city partnership, where we get to pay in-state rate, that is a blessing to St. Martin.
Because half the price, right?
Yes, it's because education in the States in particular is a lot of money. But I'm glad that I went to the J School, as we will call it, the School of Journalism, Media, and Graphic Communication. And that was also where I got that real sharpening for and the fire grew for media, journalism, and so forth.
So you think it was really important that you did that?
Yes.
Went to Florida to study,
Yes. You know, because I always say to myself, the fact finishing primary school alone is a win for my family. Then I finished high school, but for me, it's to always go further. I always believe in the to go further and beyond just the title of your education background, whether it's master's, doctorate, etc. But to live a life of lifelong learning, as they would say. So yeah, it helped made me the man I am today. Definitely did.
No, what is so interesting when I travel, especially to Miami, I meet a lot of people from Haitian descent.
Yep.
And also some of them that lived in St. Martin and moved to Miami. And you'd be surprised in America to have many medical doctors.
Yes,
and
they're thriving.
That came from
leading careers.
Haiti, you know, and even St. Martin had, I think, one or two that came from Haitian parents went on to be medical doctors. So I think Haitians instill in their children that fire to learn in higher education. And it's important. You know, you look at the history of the country, it's also incredible.
Exactly.
People look at it today, but if you look at it back when there was the revolution, it's just incredible.
And then you understand that a lot of what it's going through today is because of that.
Exactly.
You know, when you look at the greater forces that play a role in suppressing the nation, unfortunately, but that fire, that drive, you know, you can't put it out. You know, there's a quote from Toussaint Louverture, who was the leader, the main leader of the Haitian Revolution. He said, and I'm going to paraphrase, he said, although you cut down this tree of let's say, of liberty, the roots are deep and it will grow again. And that's how it feels like, you know, being of Haitian heritage, in the sense that, you know, there's this inner inexplicable drive, let's say, to make it, to prosper.
And it's amazing because it was that revolution that really drained Napoleon. He had the money.
Yes.
And he had to sell Louisiana to the U.S. for pennies. So, you know, it's amazing what Haiti has done, not only just for itself, but for the entire Americas.
Yes. Helping, was it Colombia, I believe? Exactly. Other nations to gain their independence and freedom. So
sometimes bothers me, though, when I see the situation today and what's happening. I tell people, you know, because I'm one of those people who believe in political independence, although now we have all these different issues. But you ask people in Haiti if they want to become a part of another country, they're going to tell you no matter what their conditions are. That's a clear example of the human nature inside of us, that we all want to be independent as a people.
You know what's interesting with you mentioning that is I always think about the experience that people share when they touch any country in Africa, whether it's Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, and they said, like, that feeling of being in the motherland, it's like you feel like your body would just integrate with the ground. I had that experience when my parents took me in 2012. I didn't want to go. One, because of that trip, I missed my prom.
Don't worry, you didn't miss nothing big.
No, because when I was there, I felt like I could live there. I can't explain it, but being on the soil, on the ground, and when you see how the people move, it's inexplicable. I have no words for it, really and truly. You see the joie de vivre, right? In them, despite the challenges, but the richness of the culture, which is why I'm also so grateful that my mom, particularly, ensured that we learn to not just speak Creole, but even read. So I can read, write, and speak Creole. Speaking might not be proper in a sense, or like a super fluent, but I will of course understand. But I can write and you know,
that's
and read. And
definitely. So being in Florida studying. There were a lot of other St. Martin students there.
Yes, because you even had the St. Martin Tallahassee, I think it's called Foundation or Association. Association, yes, later Mr. Luigi, his name. Yes, who played an instrumental role along with several other people, you know, to make that possibility happen. But there were a lot of St. Martiners, and some stayed, you know, some came back or traveled, went elsewhere to work. But I think that although it's important to sometimes go past your roots, let's say, or your usual environment. I think it still plays a benefit in ensuring that we remain grounded and connected with our culture.
Definitely.
Because it's easy. Anywhere you go, but I find particularly in the U.S., it's easy to get lost in the sauce because of the appeal of American culture, which already starts being ingrained in us with whether it's the music, hip hop particularly, and not to bring it down, speak down on it, but there's a certain allure that it has that can sometimes lead to negative traits or characteristics, right? Yeah.
No, you're right.
So I think, being around your people and the times where we'll come together for St. Martin Day celebration, all of that, help to keep it fresh in our minds that we have our own place.
So what year did you graduate from the university in Florida?
I was a COVID graduate.
Wow.
Unfortunately, didn't get to walk, you know.
Had a rough time, boy.
Sorry, didn't get to walk. I remember my graduation celebration was during lockdown with my wife watching my picture, and everybody had to just write a little quote and on the screen like a slide. But anyway, you know, the degree is what counts. I thank God for the experience of being there. Yeah. I think we're among the last generation to enjoy the college experience as is, because with the way in which the world is developing, the established order system, it's going to change drastically with AI, but just in terms of even down to the cost, when you have huge companies really looking for more specialists opposed to caring that you did algebra and 2 years of algebra, whatever. The fact that you have people who've established successful enterprises through just taking courses online, or the most famous YouTube University. I mean, I know a gentleman who knows nothing about cars who replaced his whole windshield through YouTube videos. So it goes back to just emphasize that the human, let's say, our human nature, part of it, growth is part of it. Not being complacent, I would say. And there are far too much opportunities and access available to us to go beyond where we currently are.
Oh, you're right. I tell you what, we got to go to a quick break, all right? When we come back here and Speaking About Everything on YouTube, Facebook, and on Hot 99.9 FM radio, we'll continue speaking with Mr. Ralph Cantave right here on Speaking About Everything.
We are vibrant, expressive, warm, and diverse. Together, we conquer, and now we expand into new horizons, giving you more of the best. Introducing our new Bankomatico Plus with wider acceptance, purchase protection, and enhanced security. Whether you're online, traveling, or in paradise, experience more with Windward Island Bank. Bankomatico Plus. More of the best.
My guest on the program is Mr. Ralph Cantave, young man here from St. Martin, and we're here speaking with him on Speaking of Everything on YouTube, Facebook, and on Hot FM 99.9 radio station right here in Simpson Bay, St. Martin, on the Strip, the beautiful Strip here in St. Martin. So, Mr. Cantave, when you came back to St. Martin, what you did?
Great question. I came back to St. Martin feeling like I was on top of the world.
Because we all will be young.
Like, hey, Ralph Cantave is back, ready to shake up the place. Then, of course, there was COVID. And so my wife, so interesting, is when I went to school, I was married. So I got married August 1st, 2018. But already when I went in January, my wife and I, we don't know we was getting married, etc. So we had a long distance relationship, you could say. But of course, I would come down during the breaks and so forth. And we still have our business. A lot of people knew about, which is a Johnny Caker.
Where's it located?
Well, now we focus more on catering and so forth. But we used to have a food truck, so we used to be open to public. But because of COVID,
that takes on the whole overhead cost and everything.
Yes,
else.
and it was mainly because of COVID. We shut down.
Okay.
So when I came back, of course, the focus was to help with the business, and my wife and I did our best we can. But we went through some tough times. I'll be really honest to say that that anybody in business knows that slump. When you reach that slump, to the point where you're like, maybe I should shut it down, get a job, and forget about it. We reached that level. We definitely reached that level.
I've been there too. I know it.
And it's trying. It's tough. But I'm glad we persevered, and so there was that. But of course, I wanted to go back and practice what I studied, which is journalism. And so I started off by first freelancing here and there with platforms, not from here. And then also did some ghostwriting, some copywriting. So copywriting.
Explain for people who don't know what ghostwriting is.
So ghostwriting.
I have a wide.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I like to make it plain. In essence, let's say let's pair the words together. Let's say you're writing a book, but you don't have the time or the know-how to write a book, but you have a story to tell, and you would hire a ghost.
Right.
So, which would be someone like me who has a writing ability and a know-how, and put it together for you, so write for you. But then my name wouldn't be listed because I'm the ghost. You're the your name is the one going to be printed on the book. And copywriting, in short, is kind of like sales writing, writing ads or more of a descriptive type of writing. So I did some of that, to write about products and services, and I was glad for it because I had a passion for just writing, period. But it helped me to open up my horizon in understanding that there's a lot of ways to be profitable as a writer. Right? And I didn't fully pursue those because although I can do it, it's not my passion. I am someone who believes in doing what you love, which sometimes comes at a cost. But thankfully, I was able to then get into broadcast because my degree is also in broadcast journalism, which was multimedia. So whether it's TV, radio, print, the whole form, digital, but especially broadcast. So I worked temporarily at Pearl FM, where I actually worked. Where I actually worked before I went to Tallahassee.
Oh, okay.
And then I think it's when I went to Phillipsburg Broadcasting, where I made a name for myself, especially when I took on the legendary, the famous "Good Morning, Mr. Governor."
Yo, waking up the governor every morning. I like how Mr. Cardi came up with that.
Yeah, it was brilliant, very
good.
very brilliant, and because he took a break from doing it, I was like, this thing was something that resonated with people. I wanted to be able to, add a newer flair to it, you could say, and I'm glad that he. He gave the blessing to allow me to do that because ultimately, although I'm still not on radio and so forth, I am grateful for everyone who gave me an opportunity to do what I love. Whether it was at PJD2, at Pearl, at Phillipsburg Broadcasting, even here now at your station, because it helped form my career. And so in addition to doing interviews and giving analysis of the news and so forth, press briefing and all of that, I think one of the things that sealed the deal was my investigative writing. Now that is what brought the fire. Remember me talk about that Haitian Revolution? That is when all of that power came out because I don't know. I realized I have a knack for ensuring that 1 + 1 is always 2.
Well, it's about 1 + 1 is 1.
Well, and for me, it's then, if that's the case, we need to, I believe in correction and in accountability, because when we look at a balance sheet, if 1 and 1 is now coming out to 2, we need to investigate why is that the case. And it came with its hardship, a challenge, because even through that time, our business was still not doing so well. As a newbie, doing journalism, not a field that initially you could say is high paying, that would allow me to get a mortgage and all of that. It was really, I was running on passion, and more so the grace of God, to be honest with you. But I'm glad though that I went through that fire, because if I had to do it again, and I don't think it's the end for me, although I'm not active right now, if I have to do it again, I know that certain challenges that you face and difficulties, I could face them without the fear, or without being a bit dismayed. I'm glad that coming back home, I was able to then really shake the place to an extent, but not. Let me put it like this. I forgot his name. The gentleman who marched with Dr. Martin Luther King. His name is John. He was a U.S. senator as well. John. He
recently died. Yeah, right. I know you were speaking about.
I forget his full name, but he used to say, make good trouble, and I believe in good trouble, not bad trouble, but good trouble.
Yeah, no, the boss opened his head and that.
Yes, correct. Yeah. And it's not easy to live such a life, especially because one of the things that led me to entering journalism is because of my love for history, and realizing that not enough of our history was taught in school.
But that's another problem, right?
And kind of still is a issue. And the way I saw journalism was that journalism is history in the present. So the stories we tell today becomes history tomorrow. So for me, it was a way to filling that gap by ensuring that certain stories are told now, so that later on, generations after, would not have to struggle to find information when it comes to research and so forth. And similar to also what you do, besides the investigative writing, I took a love for interviewing. But particularly because one of the things I realized was that our Semana children, unfortunately, are not exposed to possibilities beyond what is put before them, where there's nothing wrong with just being in a hospitality industry, whether it's a night auditor or a waiter, a waitress, or bartender. Nothing wrong with those professions. But when it comes to showcasing positions of decision-making ability, of creating real influence, those positions are hidden away from Semanas. And for me, it was to show that look at the plethora of Seman people we have in the marine industry, in the medical industry, in the arts, people who have traveled all over the world, who've done great things, whether abroad or just here. But people who also have, well, for one, we all have our stories, but people whose stories have also been suppressed, because of that issue of fear and silence. So in short, well, to bring it all together, for me, being back home, coming back from college was about challenging the established culture that we have, is that culture of fear and of silence, to encourage people to speak up.
Well, when I came back here, I was at PhD2 for about 8 months to a year, something like that.
Usually it was like the university for anyone in the media.
But for me, I was the only guy that walked into that station.
Oh, wow.
I didn't have to show him anything because I was on radio in New York.
Yes,
so I knew it already. And I did an investigative piece on a gentleman who was ripping off students.
Wow.
And I had the Miami Herald calling me back and forth. In those days, you had to pay for a phone call back or to take a collect call from me. It was the first real investigative piece on St. Martin.
Wow.
If you want to find out more about it after the show, I'll tell you, because the gentleman is still alive.
Wow.
And the other day, he contacted me on Facebook, wanted to be a friend. I said, he forgot what happened in 1980, But to move on, St. Martin is different.
Yep.
There's a hatred in St. Martin for real journalism, okay? I can tell you because I went through it. and the establishment could be very tricky, you know. So when I saw what you were doing, I looked and said, wow, it's very interesting, because after I did what I did, I didn't see anyone else doing anything until you came along. You know, so this is a very interesting place, but it's different now.
Yeah.
Believe me, you have it a lot easier.
That I know.
In my time, you had a guy named Claude Waddy.
Yeah. Yeah, that I know.
Okay, we eventually became friends, but in the beginning, it was rough, right? So in that context, I think, but you are doing what you were trained to do, and you were doing it well.
Yeah, appreciate that. And you know, to what you said too, I think a significant part of it was learning or establishing, and I think it's something that still needs to be rooted in us, in our understanding that it's not about a personal attack. Although I understand there were cases where the media was used for attack,
exactly.
So it became tainted. But it's about the position and the policy, right? Because if or as a minister or department head or whatever, even if it's private sector, right? A manager of X company or department, etc. If something wrong is done, there needs to be accountability. There needs to be awareness, and for the sake of letting people know that this is not right, this cannot become the norm. Because when things go unchecked, you know, you form a whole new culture and tradition. You know, to the point where, how is it that today on St. Martin we can see, knowing very well that despite how bad the traffic is on Airport Road, that vehicles will then decide to drive on the sidewalk, to bypass all those vehicles waiting for their time to reach home, but also putting at risk their passengers themselves, persons who are whether cycling, etc., but even oncoming traffic. For too long, we've allowed things to just go unchecked out of fear, and that is what bothers me. And I know that, and I'm not the only one who's spoken out about things, but I'm cognizant of the fact that for all those who did speak up, they paid a price. And the fear is that a lot of people just want to pay a price. We want to change, but change comes at a cost. You gotta give the money first before you get a change. You gotta give in order to get.
Right. You gotta accept the consequences, but as long as you're true to yourself, and true to what you're doing, and you're fair, eventually you will still come out the victim.
I believe that, especially and especially going back to about the media compromise. I think one of the things that has affected the view people had of reporters or journalists, not everyone, but some person in media, is the compromise of a few. Then you just lump everybody and say, well, you're just the same like all, you know, like you're just like the rest.
Right.
So ultimately, you know, I like you mentioned about Claude Waddy, the late Claude Waddy.
You knew him? Yeah.
I read a lot about him, and I've spoken to a lot of old people or seniors and people like that.
He's been on this show many times.
And I saw a few clips, the few that you posted online. But in overall, you know, it was. So what made that change for someone like me now to be able to be more confident and be more open to do it? Because you first had Hosilate Senior, right? He had his issues. We know, well, some people don't know the fact that people had to hide to read his newspaper. The fact that you know, businesses were fearful to advertise with him because, you know, they didn't want to seem like they were against Claude and all of that. But his sacrifice, then that of Junior, Mr. Lake, his son, and others who came on board, PJ2, the opposition parties, you know, it eventually dismantled that system of abuse. You know, and not, it hasn't fully gone, it's not fully disintegrated, but it does make it easier, especially because it's easier to get information right now.
That's true.
Compared to your time.
Yeah.
You know, when things happen, you see, I mean, Facebook is like, people start, sometimes information that I guess is because of what people are aware of, they post
but
online,
it's not factual all the time.
No, we have to know to discern.
That's where it comes in different, because when I was starting off, it was very, very factual.
Yeah.
There was no Facebook around, no social media.
Yeah.
You either got it right or you got it wrong.
Yeah.
And I made it my business to always get it right. I've
Yes.
never had to come back and apologize. Never.
Yeah.
In my life, in this business, I've never had to apologize and said that I did something, I said something that wasn't correct.
Yeah.
That is not the case today.
Yeah.
Social media, you see something, you better go and double
Verify,
check and double check. I want to jump back to what you said about Mr. Lake and the paper, St. Martin News, because what happened, I did a study for Mr. Lake back in 1983, 83, 84.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the date exactly. And one of the questions were asked of people, what they thought about the paper. And you know what was the single most disturbing part? They were angry because they claimed, and it was true in a way, the paper had too many things about South Africa and Africa. Remember that time the NC in Africa was struggling for liberation of black people in South Africa?
And dismantling of apartheid.
And all that. So this whole apartheid thing offended not white, but black people. Now, we are black people in this country. Why should we be offended by a newspaper printing articles about that? Do you know, that surprised me, that so many people didn't like the paper because of that.
Yeah.
That surprised you?
No, it doesn't. Sadly, it doesn't. And I think part of it is that is what the comfort of ignorance brings. Not ignorance like you don't know, like you don't have sense,
right.
But the lacking of knowledge, not having information. The saying goes, ignorance is bliss. But I don't believe in that, because ultimately you do somehow pay the price of not knowing. But I'm not, and I'm not surprised too, because of how the impact of colonialism, and how it made us think. So going back to the way, because I put it like this, leadership is so instrumental and important in shaping the culture of a nation of people. Although it's our shared experiences and traditions and beliefs and practices that develop our culture and which changes over time, one of the greatest influences is leadership. And I think that because St. Martin at that time had a leadership that, profited off of the ignorance of people, or off of people remaining ignorant, not investing per se in the consciousness of people, they would kick up against it. I think it was Aristotle or Plato, one of those Greek philosophers, have the allegory of the cave. I don't know if you ever heard about that, where basically the one who escaped the cave and went back to help others and show them the light, they actually basically wanted to kill him and get rid of him because they were so
stuck in there.
Yeah, exactly. In that sense. So that's why I'm not surprised at it. But I believe that what makes a difference now is that we can apply better discernment, because as you said, truly not everything we read is factual. That's why I appreciate the training, because training makes a difference. The training I received, my internship was at NPR station.
Oh, okay.
NPR is like
public radio.
Exactly. And I had my news director who always used to say, it's better to be correct than to be first. That's why when I was writing, I'm not, and everyone has of course their own niche, but I'm not the type to bring out breaking news. Because when things happen, I don't just want to know, oh, this happened. I need to take my time to dissect and look at all the different angles. That's why I think, the landmark articles I wrote was a GB series, because if people know the type of documents I had, I combed through a lot of information to just come up with 3 to maybe, I write a lot, so it's 500 to 700 words, but it takes a lot of work.
Yeah. It's an interesting company,
Yes, to say the least.
Well, the other day there was an interview on another radio station, and I didn't hear it, but I knew about the change that was taking place. Mm-hmm. So a person called me and said, there was an interview on this radio station, and the person said XYZ. And I said, well, it's correct. What you ask? Yeah, but we got to ask you because, if you say so, it's so.
Yeah.
When you going to come back on the radio show? I said, well, I'm going to come back in February, right? But things happened in February, I couldn't. So the 3rd of March, Simrat will not be the same anymore because I'm back on 99.9 FM radio,
Okay.
and it's going to be completely different because I'm the guy that started off many, many years ago with radio calling the way you know it today. And it's quite interesting to see how people want me to come back, so we're going to come back.
Great.
So
Great.
just to let you know what's going on.
Great. No, that's great. That's great. When I can, I might add my 2 cents or so. And that's the thing that makes it fun, which is important, that even when interviews are being done, that you are aware of the topic. And I think to what we talked about earlier, even things that make it lessen the trust that people have in media persons.
Yeah. No, because it was something that was taking place over a period of a year and a half. So I knew about what was happening behind the scenes. So when it finally happened, I knew about it, and I didn't have to listen to that interview. And what is so interesting, though, is that people get accustomed to you, and they trust you.
Yeah.
And you don't want to break that trust.
You can't violate that trust.
That's all you got.
That's your currency.
That trust, yeah.
That is your currency, yeah. And
so now, what else you been doing?
So now, I would say one of my main focuses is my children's book, which I recently launched.
Okay. How long now since you launched? Quite a while.
Flies. 2022.
Oh wow!
Yeah. I even had to think
really
back.
flies, boy.
Yeah, it does. And so that book is called Swaligan Tales. Steve Takes a Stand.
Steve?
Yeah.
Why Steve? I'm curious.
In the book,
my cousin Steve gonna say he called my name.
Oh Lord! But actually, it just resonated with me. But it's a book. So this is what my focus is now, which is to write for children. Because going back to what I shared about the lack of St. Martin history, culture being taught in schools. Again, I'm all about. I would say this is among all the issues on St. Martin. This is something that's dear to my heart. So this is how I want to give back to St. Martin, which is to focus on writing historical fiction or books, information, producing information, and even doing workshops for children.
This is your third book?
This one is my third one, yeah. And this one, the main theme about it is bullying. And in this book, you have a young boy named Steve who was bullied in school, and he suffers with his confidence and insecurity. Wow. And so there were 3 St. Martiners that he meets along the way while walking uptown who gives him encouragement to help him reshape the way he sees himself. And they are Jose Lake Sr., L.B. Scott, and Leonidas Richardson.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yes, it is. I mean, to say the least. So that's my focus right now. I was actually recently even invited to Aruba by their National Library to celebrate the 32nd Kinderboeken Week. So it's a Children's Book Festival. They flew me over there, and I visited 19 classrooms.
Wow, that's nice.
In a span of a week. And I did book readings, but when I visit classrooms, I don't just like to read a book. I like to ask questions, I like to interact, I do activities, and that resonated with me greatly, because for me it was, when I wrote that book, I did it with the intention to write for St. Martin children, never thinking that it could go beyond our shores. And so to see the story resonate with children over there, it touched my heart, and I'm grateful for it.
Do you have children?
Not as yet.
Oh, okay. So you plan to do it?
Definitely. And I love children. I just love children. I love engaging them, interacting with them, hearing, because it's the way they think. Because sometimes we underestimate the let's say the knowledge, or just underestimate them in general, but children can really make you think by the things they say.
That's interesting to me, because once you get children, you're not the same anymore.
I always hear that.
I remember after my first daughter was born, you're happy, but you get a little fear because you're worried that something happens to them and all the different things, and then as they grow up and they grow up and they grow up, and my life is a much different life than most people in St. Martin. Yeah. Then your children become a target.
Yes,
So
yeah.
they couldn't get at you.
Yeah.
So they go to your
Try
church,
attack
children
your
are going
family.
to school, and they have all these issues. Then they grow up, they become big people,
Yeah.
adults, and they come back to St. Martin, and they still don't forget you. I'm
Yeah.
giving you this little story you
Yeah.
remember. So when you get children, you remember this conversation. They're still after your children because they couldn't get to you.
Yeah.
You know, so today now I have my daughter's an attorney, and she went through hell in St. Martin.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people remember, you know, the father and what he did and what he didn't do, and the envy and everything else. And I think envy is the most dangerous of all.
Yes.
So just letting you know
Yeah.
how it happened, how it go. I wish someone had told me that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. For one, I would say, I always say, no, Vance, but you have to be wise. I always say that on St. Martin, you have to have a bulldozer mentality. So if you're gonna come for Ralph, then be prepared, because it's not just that you're coming at me, but you're coming at God.
Yeah.
You know, I truly, and not that I'm saying I am God, but I believe that I'm God's child.
Right.
And no man can succeed or fight against God.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think for me, I didn't have the 40 years as yet as you have in others who had maybe whether it's 20, 10, etc. It was just the longevity. Yeah. But in a short time that I did what I did, speaking the truth, you know, investigating things and so forth, I became all the more resolute, especially, and one of the things that kept me in particular was my faith in God. I truly believe that I am God's own. Like, I am doing God's work, and you see examples of it in the Bible. You know, for example, when God speaks to Jeremiah and tells him that I call you to be a prophet, etc., he said, I'm sending you a stiff-necked people. They're going to come against you, but do not be dismayed. You know, so I stand on the word of God. I do. So that's why, you know, I'm not afraid. I could say that, and I'm glad that God gave me the wife that I have too, who is
your wife is
strong.
Very important.
She's extremely strong.
Oh yeah, my wife the same. Yeah.
Without our wives, man, listen, you probably would have been great much faster. But I give God thanks, and I have to also shout out Tamleo Books. Because I actually published that children book through Tamara Leonard, her publishing company, you could say, Tamleo Books.
She's doing publishing now,
yeah. Helping local authors sell local stories.
That's good.
And congrats to her, she published 10 books actually, 10 children books at that.
That's fast. In a short period of time, right?
Yeah, in a span of maybe 4 years or so.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And she started doing that as a therapeutic thing because of her journey that she went through.
Yeah.
It became this big thing. So overall, I think for me, I would like to encourage people to write, encourage people to tell our stories, especially tell the stories of your family. You know, we see the changes St. Martin has been through from a cultural standpoint, but even physical. The land is different. Land tells a story too. But we need to now record whether it's your uncle, your aunt, your great uncle, your mother, your father, even if they were born in the 80s. Every period of St. Martin counts. We need to preserve the legacy of this nation. This island is changing and sadly, in a way that is not necessarily to the benefit of our people.
Yeah.
But one of the things that will allow us to thrive in the times where we face those valleys is to know where we came from. How did we get here?
Yeah.
And learn from the mistakes. So there's too many mistakes we made to be going through certain cycles.
You know, mistakes are good sometimes because they learn from the mistakes. They say, you know.
And when you repeat it all the time.
In case you've just joined us, I'm Earl Gibbs here and speaking about thing with Mr. Ralph Cantave. You know, you mentioned earlier how difficult it was during the pandemic and your business, you know, and I thought about this show. Because when I started this show, there was a period where I was really down because it was hard. And I remember going home one day and my mother looked at me and said, what's happening? I said, boy, I can't pay LBC TV. You know, those were rough days. Yeah. And look today, look at the way we are. So I think there's hope.
I believe so too.
And I speak with you and I can see your commitment to what you're doing. And once you have a strong wife that's there with you, you're going to do well, man.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Don't let those terrible people, because
Yeah.
evildoers, as Bobby said, those evildoers out there get to you at all right?
Well, indeed, no, definitely won't. The scripture says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers, rulers of darkness in high places and principalities and all of that. And let's just say I'm always in the gym with God, training,
That's amazing. I always tell people, man, I got the biggest OBA man working for me. They say, who? I said, check it out. I remember what Madam did. People will come, they'll leave all kind of things at my door, candles.
Yeah, some people don't believe in those things, but I mean, listen, you know the background I come from. Let me tell you, if you don't believe in spirituality, that's up to you. But I'm good with Jesus, so thank God, for His great sacrifice, exhibition of love that Christ came and died for all of our sins, so that we can live in eternity with Him. Because I know what the other side provides, and I ain't about that life.
No, that's true. That's good. So, what else are you doing, man? Because you did so many things in a short period of time.
So of course, besides media business, actually last year as well, my wife and I were ordained as pastors.
You're a pastor too? Well, congratulations.
The thing is, it took me a while to live a life where I don't get caught up with titles, in a sense, because sometimes I feel like it boxes you in.
Yeah.
But I also had to learn to appreciate it, because it's an honor, right? But so my belief in leadership is that of service. You're given the privilege to lead in order to serve, to show the way, to build others, to encourage people and give hope. So besides writing, media, and because after leaving the radio station, I started with a podcast, which I put on ice temporarily, but we'll be back soon enough. And now, being a pastor, I think in all things, basically, I just live a life of service.
That's good.
I spend a lot of time with young people. And that's something, like I said, I'm passionate about, especially teenagers, because they are at that phase where they really need to understand, you can't rest on the coddling of your parents, especially because today sometimes it seems like some of them even have parents to coddle them, sadly. But to be a support, I believe in that the titles, the position, and the blessings that God has given me is to help serve this nation, to especially to show people that you can make it the right way. I think that is one of my biggest passions, or what fuels me, is because sometimes we believe that it's only when people do wrong, and we've seen people do wrong and say, man, get rewarded for it. We can't die about that. It
happens all the time.
But I believe that you can live a righteous life and thrive. I truly believe that.
Yeah, but I'll tell you something. It's modern. Wow.
I ain't saying it easy though.
It's like you make it faster when you're going the wrong way than the right way. And unfortunately, you know what I mean? But it's, I see your point. But you said once you were going to go to law school. What happened?
Yes. So that also just currently on pause for now, because of having a lot of things going on. But I believe, just like I shared earlier, that we need to showcase to our Seman children that there are opportunities for them to be decision makers and to influence the direction of the country. We can't remain being consumers and servers, but servers on the entry level, right? So
we used to be at the top level one time.
What happened?
Yeah,
that's a magic question. I think that's a title for a book. What happened?
Yeah, I know.
With a picture of a map of St. Martin.
Right. No, I did an interview with Lupitas and Michael Ferry.
Yes, I remember that interview.
And because we wanted to show what we did in the past, and
there was no university on the island back then.
Exactly. Very few people who hadn't trained. Most of them didn't have a university education. I did. I was a duty manager at Mulla Bay. Others were general managers like Michael, etc. So it happened in the 70s and the early 80s, because I went back to Mulla Bay in 1984 as a duty manager. In 1975, I was a bus boy, a captain, a waiter, and a captain. Wow. So at 17, I was a captain in Mulla Bay, the youngest person to be a captain in the restaurant at Mulla Bay at the time. So, and then you could move on to different areas today now we have about 6 or 8 different people in hospitality industry with advanced degrees, so with master's degrees, and they can't find a job in the same hospitality industry where we built it in St. Martin and had St. Martin people in top management.
Yeah, and I think what made a difference is that you start to get the let's say the old boys club, you know, where what happened is it besides, and it's easy to point fingers at those on the outside who come in and put you down, but someone had to open the door for them. Someone granted them access. Yeah. Who were the people who granted them access to keep you down? You know, I'm not saying that now it's because of foreigners that we're down, but because I believe that we need to hold ourselves accountable first. You know, before we hold others accountable. One of the things is that...
But it changed too, huh?
Yes.
The reason I say it changed, and maybe you wouldn't see it the same way I see it. In the 70s, you had this guy, I'm going to call him again, Claude Waddy, call him Dr. Waddy. He was a powerful leader, no doubt about it. There haven't been another powerful leader like him. Power is important because people respect you and fear you. So people came to St. Martin and they invested and they respected him and they feared him. So when Claude said, hey, what happened? How come you got Ralph there? Ralph come back, he got his degrees. You better make sure that you get him his rightful position in that company. Today now, there's weak leadership. There's no respect. There's no fear of the current leaders because we don't have one leader anymore. We have 23. So you see that there's a difference.
Yeah, that's a dynamic.
That makes a big change in what's happening. And then you have the industry is no longer just Americans. In the early 70s, Americans came into St. Martin tourism industry, built hotels, etc., employ all people, had trust in them. You have different people, all of that changed.
Yeah.
So there's a whole, it's not just one single thing.
Yeah, correct. There's various dynamics. I disagree though on the manner in which Claude governs St. Martin though, because I mean we could disagree on that. But I do understand where you're coming from. But what I find is that what you have again is that we were the ones. We have to determine who were those peoples or individuals or families, however you want to put it, you know, who opened the door to basically state that, you know what, we want to hedge. We're creating a hedge to keep out, you know, St. Martin people to ensure that there's only a limited few who remains at the top. And that goes back to when you talk about leadership, it's about service. Who are you serving? Because as a leader, well, you're either serving the people or you're serving yourself. But I find that...
So you thought then in Claude time,
I think...
compared to today, what's the big difference?
In what sense?
Because you said you disagree with what I said.
I disagree with the manner in which he governed, like with that overt iron fist in that sense.
But it was essential in those days. You see what happened, we go through a period in life, and if you didn't have strong leadership at that time, we wouldn't be where we are today. And at the same time, we have problems too because of that.
Yeah.
So there's
a dynamic because not taking away the role he played in definitely helping St. Martin to be this prosperous nation has benefited everyone who lives on St. Martin, basically, even though not everyone gets the benefit out of it, right? But more so on the long-term impact, particularly as it relates to the building of St. Martin people and allowing them to thrive as the leaders of their nation.
Well, but that happened, and it was surprised me. I had a few people here, and I was shocked when they told me it was Claude who made sure, even Roland Dunker, who's just celebrated 50 years anniversary.
Yeah, as a lawyer. Mm-hmm.
Other guy from Curacao. This guy was amazing. Look, I told you when I came back from school, him and I didn't see eye to eye. Then he realized, hey, this guy, young guy, you know, he doesn't fear me, you know, but he doesn't disrespect me either.
Correct.
You know, the thing about
that's how it should be.
Yeah,
there shouldn't be disrespect, because like going back to what I was saying, it's not about the person, but the policy and the position. Yeah. Because in short, what I think is dangerous and which affects St. Martin today is when decisions about individuals' livelihood is too dependent on a man. All men fail. All men have weaknesses. So that's why we have our system as we have it to ensure that, that there are checks and balances in that sense.
It's unfortunate because I've been through the struggle. I've been through all the negotiations, etc., from 1980 onwards.
Yeah.
Okay. I see what's going on. We had less educated people then. Today we have more educated people and more problems. We had a debt shared between the former Nelson Tillys of $5 billion, of which St. Martin was not even $1 billion. Today now, in 15 years, we have a debt of over 1.7 billion guilders in a very short period of time. Remember, it took the Nelson Tillys 50 years to get to a $5 billion debt. It took St. Martin just 14 years, or 50 years, if you want to count this year, to get to a 1.567 billion.
This is a missing ingredient. Character. That is the missing ingredient. There needs to be competence and character. We've been lacking the character because we've been so tied to the allure of what the positions bring and the prosperity has brought. It's so the sad thing is, how we can suffer from success. Simon has suffered from his success.
And the problem is,
so now is the time to devote to
that. People more than anyone else.
That's a sad, and that goes back to why I realized the need to focus more on children books, particularly to show them the same individuals, similar people who, whether it was, for example, L.B. Scott, who was temporarily in Santo Domingo, came back home, he gained some skills, came back home, made a difference. But people who stayed, whether they were farmers, no matter what they were, but to highlight that, what made St. Martin what it was is the mark that gave us that title of Friendly Island, the spirit of the nation. Like the soul of St. Martin needs saving right now. It needs to be restored. It needs to be restored in a sense of, that friendliness that we have, that respect for each other that we have, that sense of order, of even cleanliness.
Strong people.
Yes, that's
you ever
correct.
Heard of Melford Hazel?
Yes.
Okay, this guy was incredible.
Yes.
I had the opportunity to meet him and speak with him over a period of time. If you go to Marigold, there is Paul Waite, his father.
Yes.
He passed away now. All these guys were incredible guys. We don't have them today in St. Martin. Or maybe we have them, but we don't know because they're quiet. Maybe
I think, but I also think we fail to, let's say, big up our people while they're here, while they're still living and breathing.
It's a scary time, you know why? I'll tell you why, and this is a fact. If I start to big you up a lot, you're going to run into problems. All of a sudden, the tax inspector is going to say, what are you really doing? Let me check him out there. People don't want you to big them up either. And at the same time, they don't want to speak about their success or what they're doing. I had people refuse to come. People who would share a beautiful story about their life.
They want attention.
Exactly. So you see where we
but it's a dilemma.
You remember a word you use now, I think about 5 times or 8 times, fair.
So for me, in short, or I guess I keep saying it in short, but I want St. Martin people to live free, to break out of that spirit of fear that has kept us down, and it is possible. So I just want to end by saying thank you. I thank you, persons like yourself. I remember I was in college when the late Joe Richardson passed away. I felt so bad because I had a list of so many people I wanted to interview, and I find that we're in a juncture where we have your generation, people who we need your stories. We need to give you your flowers. I acknowledge what you've done to help build St. Martin, because we're losing, we've lost, well, I'm saying lost, but we're losing a great degree of our identity. But when we understand where we came from, what made us who we are, I believe we'll be able to thrive. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much again, and God bless everyone who's listening.
Thank you, and much success, all right?
Yeah.
And that's Mr. Ralph Cantave here. And speaking of everything, on YouTube, Facebook, and on Hot 99.9 FM radio. See you next time. Take care. Bye.